Blue and red lights sliced the bay. Music died mid-beat, and a voice I didn't recognize until later cut the night clean as a blade. "This is the United States Coast Guard. Cut your engine and prepare for inspection." A flashlight found the woman at my wheel, and when the officer asked, "Ma'am, are you the registered owner of this vessel?" She froze so hard, the whole deck went still with her. That boat was mine, and the person clenching the wheel like it could save her from gravity was our brand new HOA president, Cynthia Weller. And yeah, that happened. If we're going to be honest, let me start the way I live most weekends in Mission Bay. Early coffee, lemon cleaner gulls, arguing overhead like they pay slip fees. My hand on the polished rail of a Sea Ray Sundancer I worked a decade to afford. My name is Darnell Cooper. I write code for a living, and I baby that boat-like family. Lines coiled, right nav lights, checked registration. Tucked where it should be, because water punishes wishful thinking, you know what I mean. 2 days before those lights hit, I locked my place, took a small carry-on, and flew to Atlanta for my mom's birthday. 70 candles, and all the kind of trip that leaves you lighter. I wasn't worried about home, because our neighborhood sells itself as safe and orderly, the kind of place where the grass is cut and the rules are laminated. Our HOA just elected a new president. Cynthia, hair tight blazer, tighter, a smile that says, "Trust me," while the eyes say, "Try me." We shook hands once by the mailboxes. She glanced past me at the Sundancer and said, "Quite the toy you've got there." Toy landed wrong, but I let it pass. Folks reveal themselves eventually. Here's what I learned later. Cynthia had a friend named Margot who loves a dare. A young cousin with more swagger than sense, and a couple of adults who know better until a bottle tells them they don't. Friday became a joke about borrowing a neighbor's boat. Saturday became a plan, and HOA access. That opens gates for inspections suddenly opened a gate for entitlement. After dark, they walked the dock like they owned tide rights, climbed aboard, and you could almost see the moment where Cynthia's conscience tried to make a last stand. Then the music went up, the ropes went loose, and the bay took them like a stage. Water carries sound, like gossip carries heat. A kayaker yelled to keep it down. Troy, the swagger one, yelled something back, and every window along the waterfront turned into an audience. People called in the disturbance the Coast Guard launched, and while Cynthia played captain for a handful of tipsy applause, consequence was already inbound. When those strobes painted the waves, the party shrank to the size of truth. "Cut your engine," the officer said, and you could hear the fear in how long it took. The light swung across faces that suddenly wanted to be anywhere else, lingered on empties rolling near the stern, came back to the wheel. "Your name, proof of registration. Are you the owner?" Cynthia tried to stitch a lie that wouldn't hold. "I'm looking after it for a neighbor," and the officer didn't blink. "Borrowing without permission is theft on the water," he said matter of fact, like a weather report. They documented the alcohol, the insufficient lights, the clumsy operation, and told her the vessel would be secured and returned to the rightful owner. On cue, my phone buzzed states away with a voicemail from the marina office. "Mr. Cooper, when you're back, we need you to stop by." The kind of message that throws a shadow over a good weekend. I cut my trip short, drove from the airport to the dock, and listened to the manager. Sunburned, steady, older than my boat, and wiser than all of us. Say Coast Guard pulled your neighbor over at the wheel. He said neighbor like it tasted bad. I didn't go to the slip first. I went to her door. People think anger always looks like yelling. Mine didn't. "Tell me why I heard from the marina that you were at the wheel of my boat when the Coast Guard pulled it over," I said. because small talk is where accountability goes to die. She held a coffee she didn't drink, eyes skittering around. I was keeping an eye on things, she said, which is a sentence people use when they want to shrink a choice into an accident. You thought your title meant permission, I said, and watched the part of her that loves control realize control was gone. She tried. I didn't mean for it to go that far. Then I'll make it right. And I nodded the way a man nods when he's choosing words he can live with. You didn't slip, I told her. You chose. Trust isn't cleaned up by a sentence. It's rebuilt by choices you make when nobody is looking. The next 48 hours turned our clubhouse into a courtroom with folding chairs. I sat in the back near the exit, because you learn to prefer exits to microphones. The room filled with neighbors who never show up for anything, people who mow straight lines and pay dues on time, people who don't like drama, but won't duck it when it knocks. Cynthia came in with a binder held like a shield, and the air shifted the way it does before an afternoon storm. The vice president tried to call the meeting to order, old business committee reports, and the room told him no without raising a hand. You embarrassed us, someone said from the front row. You embarrassed yourself, someone else added from the wall. A boat owner who's taught 3 generations of teenagers to tie a clove hitch said one word. I'll be grateful for until I stop breathing. Stole. The room got quiet, not because it was cruel, but because it was honest. Margot stared at her shoes. Troy wasn't there. The only one who warned them on the water stood up with a voice that didn't wobble and said authority isn't ownership. Respect is earned, not assigned. The board went to the part of the agenda nobody thinks they'll ever need requests for resignation, and the vice president asked if Cynthia wanted to respond. She said I made a mistake. From behind a row of shoulders, I heard what we all knew. No, you made a choice. She resigned. No applause, just the gentler sound a community makes when it names a line and decides not to move it. That night, I did the one thing that calms me when I'm spun up. I looped new dock lines, wiped away a scuff, the way you erase a thought you don't want to keep, checked the fire extinguisher tag, and the nav lights, even though I knew they were fine. People past offered those small nods men trade, when the work in your hand says more than the words in your mouth. Nobody asked for a speech. Nobody needed one. The next afternoon, Cynthia found me by the slip. She didn't bring the binder. She brought an apology that sounded like someone learning a foreign language. The right shape, the wrong ease. I don't hate apologies. I just prefer them paired with changed behavior. I'm sorry, she said, and I told her the truth. I'd tell my own brother if he did me wrong. This isn't about a boat anymore. It's about trust. You can live across from me for 20 years and never get that back if you don't change who you are in the moments nobody claps for. She nodded and walked away slower than she arrived. Here's the twist you might not expect. The board offered me a neat civil path, restitution, a formal censure, a letter admitting fault that goes in the file, so there's a paper trail if this story ever auditions with a new cast. My lawyer friend says make it count. Push harder, teach the lesson with pain. My pastor says forgiveness is a practice, not a stunt. And punishment without growth is theater. I've been sitting in the space between those 2 chairs, steering by feel, trying to keep my name clean without turning this into sport. A week later, I took the Sundancer out at dawn. No soundtrack except the low hum of an engine that doesn't lie, pelicans lifting like ancient kites, condos catching first light, while somebody inside rinsed a mug in a quiet kitchen. I passed the bend where the party noise had bounced back at them and thought about the little stories we tell when we see each other from across sidewalks and docks. The guy polishing his boat must be showing off the woman with the clipboard, must be right. The rules must always serve the person holding the gavel. Most of the time, those stories are lazy. Some days, they're dangerous. So here's where I land. Authority without character is a costume. Respect isn't a loud voice, it's a mirror. And trust once broken is a long walk home without a ride. You can argue about the ending if you want. Should I press charges? Should I settle and shut up? Should she be barred from any board for the rest of her life? But for me, victory looked like this simple, quiet thing. My boat back where it belongs. My name not in anyone's mouth for the wrong reasons. A neighborhood that remembered the line between leadership and entitlement and redrew it in ink. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm saying I know how to care for something that isn't mine. Other people's time, other people's space, other people's trust. Because men who raised me taught me better, and I chose to listen. If this story hit something for you, let me hear it. What would you have done in my place? Push harder, or let time work? Where's your line between borrowing and stealing, between rule and respect? Drop a comment. Argue with me. Tell me a story you've seen on your block or your dock. And if you want more real talk about choices that build or break communities, like the video, subscribe, share it with the one person who needs a reminder that character still matters more than clout.